Good. Well, we got people piling in here. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good to see some Monica. Yes, great to see you. Great faces. I love it. All right, cool. Well, great afternoon, everybody. Really happy to be here. Have a phenomenal guest here that I'm so excited to break down the story. He is none other than Justin Gold of nut butter fame and so many other things. A wealth of knowledge. It's somebody that I looked up to for many years as we were building our brand, and really excited to, facilitate the Justin story and also just ask a ton of questions here. Justin's no stranger to the experience, so Justin, would love a quick intro and introduce yourself to everybody.
How? Naturally Border San Diego. Hey, I am Justin. I'm the founder of Justin's. I know it's really original name. And I'm calling in from Boulder, Colorado, where I've spent the past 20 years. No, 20, I don't know, 25 or so years. But I'll get into my story as to how I got here and why I'm here, and how Boulder was so impactful to the success, my personal success and the brand's success. But that's where I'm calling from. It's 65 degrees today. It's really kind of goofy, and it's going to snow probably a foot this weekend.
So much to talk about here, Justin. And the one thing I will say before we even begin, for those that will get to know Justin here today, but always been one that is so gracious to help. Even when I think I reached out to you in like 2013 and we were just getting started, like, sure, let's hop on a call. And nothing's changed as a testament to you being here today. So guys, some of the run our show today, Justin's gonna tell a bit about the Justin story, and we're gonna definitely talk about natural foods in general. But before we jumped on, Justin, you were talking about Naturally Boulder, and this is Naturally San Diego. Could you give us like a quick rundown on Naturally Boulder? And you were like an OG or second generation. Walk us through that.
G2. So what's really unique about about the Natural Network is so Boulder, Colorado was so instrumental to my success and my brand's success. And so let me just get into my story, and then I'll just relay how Boulder kind of influenced it in a dramatic way. And so when I would always go to Expo, and I love hearing how other entrepreneurs got started and how they got founded. And I've always been able to pull little pieces of inspiration or nuggets of persistence and perseverance that were always helpful for me. And I still enjoy hearing other people's stories. And so I figured today I would take you through the origin story of how and why I got started and where I hit some lucky breaks. And then we can do some Q&A at the end or whatever you guys are into. I'm sure you've attended a bunch of these. And so I grew up in Western Pennsylvania in a small town that's famous for two things: Rolling Rock beer and Arnold Palmer, the golfer, not the drink. He wasn't a drink yet. And that's in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. My dad was a dentist, and so I didn't have a whole lot of natural foods experience growing up. What I did have, though, was a deep appreciation for our natural environment. So I went to college, to a small college in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I was studying to become an environmental lawyer. I was really influenced by civil action and Aaron Brockovich and all kinds of fun stuff. And so, so I'm in university, I'm preparing for the LSATs, and I take an internship my senior year at an environmental law firm there locally. And it was the best internship I ever had because I hated it, right? It was terrible. And what was great about the internship is it gave me this sense of how important it is to love what you do, and to want to do it at a really high level. And so I dropped out of the LSAT course, and law was important to me because I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted a degree that could give me a lifestyle that I really wanted. And so so I dropped out of the LSAT course, graduate degree in environmental policy, and then I moved to the Bay Area to get as far away from Pennsylvania as I could. And I couldn't cut it in San Francisco, like waited tables, worked in a few restaurants. It just wasn't my scene. And so then I very purposefully wanted to move to the mountains. And so I chose Boulder, Colorado, primarily because of its proximity to the mountains and because of CU. And my goal was, I knew I needed to go back to school. I wasn't sure for what. I love academia, and I knew that if I moved to Boulder, got residency, I could, find a way to get back to school. So I'm living in Boulder. I'm working in restaurants. I'm waiting tables, and I'm a vegetarian. And I was eating a lot of, this is so crazy. I can't even believe we're talking about peanut butter, right? It's just such a
Yes.
silly thing. Because I was eating a lot of peanut butter and almond butter, and literally, I think the greatest thing about entrepreneurship is the sense of curiosity. And so I'm in a store, and I'm like, some natural food store, probably Wild Oats, and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why is there's a whole row of jam, jelly, fruit preserves, fruit spreads, and there's like two varieties of peanut butter, smooth or crunchy? And why is it that there's one brand of almond butter, and almonds taste great, but this almond butter tastes terrible? It doesn't make any sense to me. And what was really interesting is you can grind your own peanut butter in the store. So how hard can it be to really like make your own? And so I got a food processor, and I started making my own, peanut butter at home by adding all different types of ingredients with, so peanuts and honey, peanuts and maple syrup, almonds and cashews, chocolate, vanilla, cayenne pepper, just all kinds of funny stuff.
Justin, I'm just so curious, just to interrupt you there, did you immediately go to making multiple flavors like when you were playing around? Like, was that the aha? Or was it like, hey, how hard is it be just to grind my own almond butter? Or was it the desire to have a better tasting almond butter?
It was interesting. That's an interesting question. I think that it was a little bit of everything. It was, you know, why can't you make your own peanut butter? Is there a reason like there aren't different varieties and flavors? Can it not be done? It was a sense of a question I wanted an answer to. And then in the back of my mind, to be like, this would be an interesting, business, if that would ever work. But I think it was more along the lines of having too much free time and not a girlfriend or a dog or anything, and just like trying to figure out like how things work and why. And so, and it's really fascinating. Like, I kept a journal as I was experimenting. And let's say you have three ingredients, right? Let's say it's just peanuts, honey, and salt.
Right.
And with three ingredients, and I know we're all food entrepreneurs in the room, there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways you can mix three ingredients and still not get it right, right? So peanuts,
Hmm.
you want to use a raw peanut, a dry roasted peanut, an oil roasted peanut. What variety of peanut do you want? There's Valencias, there's runners, there's Spanish, there's Virginias. You want to, if you roast the peanut, what level of roast do you want? Light, medium, dark?
Mm.
Do you want the skins on the peanut, the skins off? There's hearts in the middle of a peanut. Do you remove the heart? Do you keep the heart in? And now you've got all these peanut options. And now you get to a honey option. Well, does liquid honey work? Are you going to use a whipped honey? Maybe it's a honey powder or a honey flavor. And then, because water activity and water and oil, you start to figure out what works and
Mm.
doesn't work. Then you have salt. Are you going to use table salt? Are you going to use sea salt? Are you going to use, how much salt do you want to use? How much honey do you want to use? And like three ingredients was like 10 to 15 jars. And then if you're
And I mean,
adding
I'm
like,
just so curious, like at this stage, when you're like, oh, I'll buy a food processor, I'll play around. Were you playing around with that diversity of options, even at that stage? Like, oh, I'm going to try this one. How's this one taste?
yeah, I mean
And
back in
obviously, like,
I mean back
is
in
this
the day,
yeah, what year was this?
uh gosh, 2001, probably 2001. And I mean, you walk into the bulk section of a co-op, and there's three different types of honey, there's four different types of peanuts. Like you can get buried in the weeds pretty quickly. But long story short, I ended up creating all these different concoctions. And then I was living with a bunch of roommates, and my roommates would literally be like, dude, what is he up to? He was up all night. Like, look at this mess in the morning. And they would try everything and give me their feedback and opinions. And then they'd finish their favorites. And I was like, I was saving that. And so I had to put my name on everything, Justin's.
Oh
And
my
that,
goodness.
and literally people just started calling it Justin's. And then someone's like, dude, this is a really interesting idea. Have you ever thought about turning this into a business? And I had thought about it, but I didn't take it serious because I didn't know like if this could actually be done.
And at this point, you're still waiting tables. You're living with some friends, you're waiting tables.
Yeah,
Are
this
you
is
at farmers markets yet?
so I'll get there. If you keep asking questions, we'll never get. We're gonna be here for 2 hours.
So everybody extend the time.
Can you guys mute Matt? Is that good? Is that all right? Cause I can't do it on my end. I tried. Trust me, I've tried. so, so anyway, um, so the first thing I started thinking is, how would I turn this into a business? How do you even get this to the farmer's market? Because you just can't show up at the farmer's market with an item out of your home. You still have to have, be out of a registered, food license facility, blah, blah, blah. So the first thing I did, which I think a lot of you've probably done, is I went to the library, right? And I'm very lucky because CU has a business school here. So I went to CU's business school's library and I researched their business plan section. And, this is kind of like right around the internet was coming out. I found so old even saying that, but they had like this, catalog of real life business plans. And I found one for like a canning company. And I was able to go through, okay, these are the inputs I should consider. This are the stores that they're selling into. These are the operational and the finance, the marketing things and how they all come together. And I'm literally working out how a business would work for peanut butter locally. And honestly, like I was stumped on like the opening section, which is what type of business entity do you want to be for tax purposes? S Corp, C Corp, LLC, like sole proprietorship. Like honestly, like do any of us in the room really care? No, we just want to be making product and getting things out there. But it's a really important, place to start. And so where I got really lucky was instead of just, trying to figure it out, I asked myself, well, I wonder if there's any natural food companies in Boulder that I can reach out to ask some really simple questions like that. And, how do you get a UPC? And what's the difference between the FDA and the USDA? And how do you get the health department in to certify a kitchen? And how do you even get into Whole Foods? And all these fundamental questions. And where I was really lucky was there were people here who had the answers, right? And so out of Boulder, right, this is what is shocking to me. Boulder's about 100,000 people. 40,000 of them are probably students, right? 30,000, I don't know. You have, Celestial Seasonings that was started here by Mo in the 70s, early 70s. And then from Celestial Seasonings, you have White Wave started by Steve. And Steve was in like 74. And White Wave turned into Silk. And Steve was making, tofu before he ever made soy milk. Soy milk was kind of like a byproduct that turned into this one beautiful accident. And then you have Mark Retzloff, who started Horizon Organic Dairy around in the 70s. And then around the same time, Alfalfa started. And Alfalfa kind of merged and turned into Wild Oats, which was acquired by Whole Foods, I think sometime in the 90s or 2000s. And so already you have all these brands here. And as I was coming up, you had Izzy Soda was kind of getting going. Boulder Chips was getting going. And so all these iconic brands. And I didn't go to like, Steve or Mo. I like talk to the sales guys, the ops guys, the finance people that I would literally like stalk and hunt down and find. And then when I found these people, you could ask them questions, take them out to lunch, take them out to coffee. And what's so great about Boulder, and I feel the same vibe in San Diego, are people want to help each other, and people are available, and people are willing to have coffee. And what's interesting is all those same ingredients are in New York City and they're in LA and these big cities, but the people like either aren't available or really just don't want to help you. Like they're just busy. And in Boulder, like people really want to see each other succeed, and so this community started. And so you have the OGs. And then you have the Justins and the Nusas and the Evols, and the Choco Loves. That was kind of like the Gen 2. And we didn't have a Naturally Boulder. We would literally go out there and we would share best practice. Third Street Chai was another great one. And we'd go out there and we would, share best practices, and we'd meet with each other and we'd find these entrepreneurs and we'd share contacts. And that was the magic, was that networking and that to shortcut, find best practices. Who's the best broker in the Pacific Northwest, because presidents won't return any of my phone calls, right? Like that's the shit you need to know. And it was really great because we were sharing all of this information, and that honestly merged into a Naturally Boulder format. So then we could, kind of professionalize it a little bit. And now we have the Gen 3 companies that are all great companies. Quinn comes to mind, Hope Hummus comes to mind, that really benefited from that sense of collaboration and shortcutting. And so anyway, so where was I? So so I'm now at the farmers market, and it was just so great because the farmers market I was able to Boulder was also really important because at the farmers market I was able to trial out products, and I learned right away that people love really fancy flavors, but at the end of the day they just want simple, and it was so good for me and for you guys to see firsthand somebody come up, oh my gosh, nut butter, this is a new company, oh this is so exciting, oh look at all these different flavors, so I'm going to take the tour. Oh wow, you have a cinnamon, oh wow, that's really pumpkin pie almond, oh that's I'd buy that once a year. And you have a maple, oh, that's really delicious, and a cayenne pepper, oh that's too spicy but I really like it. Chocolate, oh too sweet, really nice. What do I buy? Do you have a plain, just a plain peanut butter or a plain almond? I'd be like, no. Like, go to Whole Foods, like, oh, and they're like, well, I really just want something I can have every day, something really simple, and I want to support you, and I want to buy, support, and that's when like the light bulb went off, which was just keep it simple. And so then when I took was at the farmers market to Whole Foods, I didn't lead with my cayenne pepper, or a chia chai spice, whatever. I led with like honey and peanut butter, right? Classic almond butter. And that's what really did well. And even when I presented to the Whole Foods bar, like, oh yeah, I've seen it at the farmers market. How come you're not showing me the cinnamon? I really want the cinnamon. And I'm like, well, because
Wow.
it doesn't sell as much. But I'm like, you can
Wow.
carry it. Oh, yeah, we'll carry it. And then in a year it was discontinued because it just didn't attract as much as the simpler ones. And then I
Justin,
found
you know what's
myself.
so fascinating about that, just to chime in there, is like it seems like your aha was like, hey, we'll develop all these different flavor experiences around nut butter, but that opened the door to really like a such larger idea, right? Of like,
Yes, I'm literally like, thank you for leading me. I'm right there. And so what was interesting was the nut butter in a jar wasn't cutting it. Like
mm.
I was renting nights and weekends at a salsa company in Denver that had a food license that I could use their facility. I was waiting tables, working in restaurants. We had no gross margin. By the time I made it and delivered it myself to Whole Foods in the back door, stocked my own shelves, no UNFI, there's no more, like it just wasn't working. And then I finally got it to like 30 or 40 stores and was able to hand my distribution off to UNFI. Now I had absolutely even less margin. It just wasn't working. But I didn't realize it because I was 24 years old, and I was, this was just fun. It was like a hobby almost. And then I'm out on a mountain bike ride, and as I'm riding, I'm eating an energy gel or a goo or something like that. And at
Mm.
that moment, I really wanted protein, plant-based protein in a squeeze pack, not sugar. And that was like one of my ahas is like, well, why isn't anyone doing that? Why do you just put peanut butter in a ketchup pack? And I'm like, oh man, that's a really interesting idea. And so literally I called up the two co-mans. I don't even know what co-man was, but I do now. Called up the two co-mans who made squeeze packs for everyone, right? And you guys all know this. They make squeeze packs and mustard, mayonnaise, salad dressing, hand lotion, hair conditioner, whatever. It's in a squeeze pack. So I called them both up. I'm like, hey, my name's Justin. I'm out of Boulder, Colorado. I have this food company. I really want to put my products in a squeeze pack. They're like, where's squeeze packs for us? No squeeze packs, too big or too small. What are you making? And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm doing peanut butter and I'm doing almond butter and I'm doing chocolate. Hey, whoa. Sorry, can't help you. Good luck on your endeavor, and best of luck to you. And none of them would return my calls. None of them would work with me. You guys know why? I'm sure some of you in the room do.
Nut
Allergy.
allergy?
Yeah, there was Adam. He's the reason why. Adam's allergic to peanuts. I don't trust people who are allergic to peanuts. And so I'm just kidding. Adam's very trustworthy. And so, so you have this allergen that was, preventing these companies from going into this category. And at first I was really bummed because I couldn't get anyone to make it. But then I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity, which led to my best worst decision, which was I borrowed $75,000 from my roommate's parents. And I bought my own squeeze pack machine. And not just any squeeze pack machine, one that was 30 years old that was doing like, I don't even know, shampoo or hair conditioning squeeze packs that ended up in the Sunday paper, for those of you guys who remember that. And I got that machine, and it took me about 9 months to figure out how to get this machine to work. How to, it was a 3 phase. Now I had to have my own facility, which I shared with Bobo's Oat Bars, another Gen 2 great company.
Wow.
Shared a facility with Bobo's Oat Bars, wired it in this facility. I had to have compressed air to pneumatically move things. We had these sealing bars, the temperatures had to be perfect. I had to hire a technician to come in and teach us how to use it. And then we get this squeeze pack machine running after 9 months, and I sell it into Whole Foods locally. I'm in 3 stores locally, and Whole Foods was a great partner, has always been a great partner. And and what was so crazy is, to me, this was squeeze pack was an energy bar. And so I put it in these trays, just like a Lara bar, another Gen 2, and took the Lara
Mm.
bars and put the squeeze packs in this big tray next to Lara bars and Kind bars and Cliff bars and all this stuff. And I was so excited because you guys all know the hard work's done, right? The hard work's creating the product. Once you create it and put it on shelf, it just sells itself. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm patting myself on the back. Okay, 9 months, $75,000. This is great. And like 3 months later, like it bombed. Like no one was buying it. And the Whole Foods buyer was like, Justin, can you come and grab this product? I'm gonna put something else there. And I was devastated because I had everything invested in this. And so rather than just give up, right? Because we don't give up. It was understanding why this wasn't working, because I really thought this was a good idea. And so when I watched people shop at the Whole Foods, it became really clear to me that people are in a rush, and if you're not on the list, you're not in the cart. And if they happen to notice your product because there's a tag on it or it's next to something with a tag, and they pick it up and they don't know what it is immediately, they ignore it and they move on because they don't have time to figure out what it is. And nobody knew what it was. And people were like, what's a squeeze pack doing where my bar should be? What do I use this for? And they just ignored it. And so as a Hail Mary, what we did was I redesigned the package to be in a small box. And the box would be right next to the jar on shelf.
Mm.
So that way, at least you knew what it was. And I'm not telling you, hey, this is an energy bar. Hey, it's a squeeze pack of peanut butter. Use your best judgment. And it worked. It was crazy. After
Like
polling,
immediately, or
yeah,
like,
immediately. And what's crazy is, I would do demos, and I'd be in stores all day, and I talk to people, and I'd be like, "Hey, why did you just pick up that squeeze pack?" And then I figured it out. The number 3 reason why people were buying it was for on-the-go portable protein, which is the whole reason why I created it. The number 2 reason why people were buying it was for portion control, right? Which is really
mm.
interesting to me. And the number 1 reason why people were buying the squeeze pack was a trial size for the larger jar, which was earth shattering to me. So people would be like, wow, there's a jar of almond butter here. It's $12. It's really expensive. Oh, there's a squeeze pack for $1.99. It's on sale for 75 cents, whatever. Wow, this is really good. I really want to buy almond butter now. I really
Right.
trust, I already know this brand. I'm going to buy this brand. And so people were buying their own trial. It was crazy. It
Mm.
was genius. I wish I had thought of it. And and that really like gave us momentum, and then we were able to grow nationally with Whole Foods with this system that we called the jar pack system, and that got us going. And so now we're blowing and going. I hired, I
Justin,
raised.
just I'm just so curious because it's like a key moment where you put the squeeze packs in bars and you had them packed like bars flat, right?
Yeah,
You're only in 3 stores. But as you know, that's a different buyer. The almond butter, nut butter buyers are buyer than the bar buyer. Because you were regional, were you able to just say, hey, I know it didn't work here. Give me a chance over here? Like
dude, I
that could
wasn't
have
regional. I was stocking my own shelves. So like, I'm like,
mm,
because you guys have all been through this, right? Like, you go to Whole Foods to your one local store or your whatever store. It doesn't have to be Whole Foods. For me, it was Whole Foods, and you're like, hey, I'd like to sell here, and the buyer like rolls their eyes because they hear this 10 times a day, and they're like, what do you got? And I'm like, I'm selling peanut butter. And they're like, oh, great, good luck against our private label. And then they're like, tell you what, you'll get into Unify, and once you're in Unify, we'll
right.
care. Then you call up Unify, and they're like, hey, Whole Foods told me to call you. And they're like, oh, great. But they didn't call me. How many stores have you been authorized for? I'm like, authorized? I would just the one store. And Unify laughs and they go, oh, no, it doesn't work like that. You got to be in, the whole region, or else we're not going to carry you. We just can't carry one store. So you go back to the buyer, and the buyer is like, oh, you're back. And you're like, yeah, I'm back. And and you're like, and then you have to like literally think about what are all the things, the objections I need to overcome before the buyer, even opens his mouth. And so you're like, look, so I walked in, and David Spice, I'll never forget, the nicest human being, like put me through the ringer. He's like, look, I'm like, hey, Dave, can I just deliver, to you Whole Foods, one store? He's like, no, I can't do that. He's like, I gotta call you every time you're running low. I put in a keypad, everything comes from UNFI. I don't have time to do that. I'm like, okay, well, what if I'll come in and I'll see what you need, and then I'll deliver it myself, and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, but then your cases they're in the back. I got to go find them. I got to remember to look off somewhere else. And it's just too much effort. Okay, well, what if I come and see what you need? I'll deliver it, and then I'll stock my own shelves. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, but what if it doesn't sell?
DSD.
Sit here forever. And I'm like, okay, well, what if I see what you need, deliver it in the back, stock my own shelves, and I'll stick around and do a demo? And he's like, fine, go away. Right. And that's how it started. And I did that across 30 stores. And
30 stores? You
yeah,
were
Whole Foods,
self-distributing to
natural
30
grocers.
stores.
Yeah.
I
Whole Foods,
I just think this is a really key moment because I don't know if that's possible today.
it probably isn't.
And like, how would have Justin's been different if it was launching today? Like, would it
Well,
even?
so what they did, and I was a part of the original program, was Whole Foods has been great at doing regional offerings. And so I was the first, local producers loan, whatever, recipient. And so Whole Foods has really leaned into local, which is,
Yeah.
fantastic. And so that's what you do now. Is it's easier now, is you can get into a whole region, um, you know,
Yeah.
if there's a fit and there's a need.
So just so we can bring up to, I'm just so curious. So, you buy this machine for 75,000. You make your own nut butters. You're doing a lot of farmers markets. It's like 2005-ish. Um, Correct me on the date. Uh, have you raised any money? Like, where are you in the just like, is it, hey, no, we totally bootstrapped this, took a loan, bought a machine, and where are you?
So with the jars, I probably borrowed $45,000 from mostly family and friends, and used that money to start the jar business. And then just wasn't paying myself anything, was able to
Of
cash
course.
flow
Yeah.
that. And then the squeeze pack idea came out, borrowed 75 grand. And then like once we validated it and we had it in stores and it was selling, it was like, holy shit, like, now the paranoia really crept in, because I didn't invent peanut butter. I didn't invent the squeeze pack.
Mm,
All I could do was move fast. And so at that point, paranoia drove me to be like, okay, I need to raise capital. And the capital is to hire ahead, bring people who are scary smart into my organization, who can grow this thing faster than I ever could. And being in Boulder and having all this talent, people always kind of moving around, was real. I had the entire Izzy Soda team, not the entire team, but I had a lot of people from Izzy Soda who came over to Justin's because it was acquired by Pepsi and they didn't have a job anymore. And I was like,
wow.
help. And
Yeah.
so I raised $1.1 million from in 2008 to 2009. It took me a year to close that round. I was
Hold on.
25.
You have to elaborate on that
Yeah.
because this is what
So
entrepreneurs are
I
going
will.
through right now. A year.
Yeah. Well, it's 0809. And so 0809, there was an economic collapse because of a housing market, bubble. And so people were upside down on their mortgages, and a lot of people were pulling back on their spending. And so, I was hoping I could get $100,000 checks. And instead I was getting, $15,000 checks. And so it took me a lot longer, and I had to spread it out, across more angels, which is a blessing and a curse. And what was interesting to me
Yeah.
is I was in my 20s, and a lot of people wouldn't invest in the organization at first because of my age and my inexperience. And so I had to overcome all of that. And so just by listening and asking questions, I decided to build an advisory board. An advisory board had industry professionals on it who gave me experience and credibility that allowed, an investor to feel comfortable that I was going to be able to do the right thing. And I had three. And I always think you need to have one person that has a kind of like a foot in the past, one person who's a current operator, and one person who's kind of retired and out there who's can kind of see into the future. And so that was kind of my board. And Jane Miller, who was the CEO of Rudi's Organic Bakery at the time, was on my board and is a mentor of mine,
Whoa,
which is
I did
how I
not know that.
her.
It's amazing.
And now I work for Jane Miller at Rudi's Organic Bakery, and I love it. And so I've
Wow,
known Jane
what
for,
a
and so I leveraged a board to raise money, and to use that money to hire ahead. I hired some really extraordinary people from Izzy Soda. One of them being Lance Gentry, who is an absolute like rock star to work with. He was the marketing guru there. And then I was able to take the squeeze pack and jar system and sell it across the country. And I also used some of that money to do something really foolish, right? Which was I innovated into a new category. And everyone told me, like, dude, first get this thing working, then start, going off or going through adjacencies. But I just felt this sense of urgency that if I don't go into this category soon, someone else will. And I really, and the things that we were missing with nut butter was really gross margin. And when I did a cost exercise for confection, you can charge a lot more. People will spend money for this emotional confection product that they wouldn't otherwise spend on, peanut butter or even in a squeeze pack. And we had some good margins on squeeze packs, better than jars, but we still had a ceiling that we really, couldn't go beyond. And so with confections, the big gamble was at the time, there wasn't an organic candy category. There was an organic chocolate bar category where, Green and Black and Endangered Species,
Yep.
owned, and Choco Love was really making some headway into there. But that was it. That was the candy section. At Newman's Own, I take that back, had a peanut butter cup, but it was a 3-pack and had all this plastic packaging, and this wasn't a good product. And so I really felt that there was an opportunity to do 100% organic, conflict-free chocolate, and while still growing the squeeze packs. And so I did both and launched the 2010 launched the peanut butter cup. And what was brilliant about the peanut butter cup is it put us at register, it put us in different part of the store, it put us at C-store, it put us at coffee shops. It helped grow the awareness of the brand. And I also used that angel round to rebrand, which was really important. I went from a farmer's market, Ben and Jerry's. Everybody wants to be Ben or Jerry. It's kind of crazy as you get started. And then as you kind of like the business evolves, you realize that, I want to sell to more than just co-ops. I want this to be in a Walmart and in a Dean and DeLuca and also in a Whole Foods and a co-op. I want it to be everywhere. And so I used some of that money to rebrand the organization, and that's where you have the white with the iconic nut.
That's the iconic, yeah, that white.
I mean,
that it's hard to underestimate. I mean, you guys executed so well, but I feel like that white packaging it's iconic. Like even I know it's now has time and 15 plus years, but that could you tie that packaging change to a velocity change? Like was there a moment when that all landed and it's like, whoa, this is really taking off? Or was it just like pushing the ball uphill?
I mean, everything helped, right? Like it wasn't one thing. Like the packaging helped because now it got noticed, but it was still a really expensive product because it was artisan and we made small batches. And so now we had to just do demos and we had to demo. And, I was in stores nonstop. I would literally like, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but it's so important. I would call a friend who lives in LA and I'd be like, hey man, can I sleep on your couch for a week? And I would literally rent a car and I would drive from one store, check my set. And this is so important, guys. Like, even though Whole Foods runs on planograms, it's loose, right?
Yeah.
And so I would walk into a store and I'd look at my set and I'd be like, holy shit, like I'm at the bottom. This is not good. And they're missing like our top SKU. And I'd look at the set and like, okay, well, they're triple faced on this Maranatha item. They're double faced on Arrowhead Mills. They got this crazy like private label row. I'm like, I bet if we could single face that, double face that, reduce this, I could move that up, that down, and I could get some more facings. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then I'd walk back into the store and I'd look for the buyer, ask around who the buyer was, and I'd call ahead to make sure I knew they were working that day, and then would talk to the buyer and be like, hey, I'm visiting from out of town. Do you have just a minute to talk about my set here? I'm really curious. And I'm like, yeah, I'll help you out. And I'm like, hey, look, I noticed this, this, and this. Hey, by the way, where are you from? How long have you lived here? How long have you worked here? Oh, really? Oh, you came from Colorado? You do you like basketball? Are you into football? Oh, you like the Nuggets? Yeah, man. And I would just take mental notes of someone. Oh, you have kids? How old are your kids? Oh, do they like stickers? Here's a sticker, and then I would take all these notes, and then I'd be like, hey, look, I was looking at the set here. Now that you're here, can I just spend like 20 minutes and move this tag over here and then move this and move that? I'll set everything myself, and no one will know it ever happened. And then whoever prints tags, can I go talk to them, see if they can print me a tag, and I'll just literally like would make it happen. 50% of the time they'd be like, no way,
Yeah.
go away. The other 50% of the time they'd be like, yeah, I'll help you out. Yeah, sure, why not? You're the owner. Yeah. And so it was amazing what I was able to accomplish just by getting eye to thigh, right? Just getting a good, do they have the whole set? Are we in a good position? And I would go, and then I would stick around. Then I'd go, in the afternoon, I'd do a demo at a store. And then I'd go back to the first store and I'd be like, hey, what's up, John? Nice to see you. Hey, did you watch that game last night? People be impressed. And I literally keep a notebook, and the notebook has all the store people in it. And then when I walk into the store, I would, literally like right where we left off, having the same conversations, but I had to go in there and rehearse. Oh, here's what Lisa looks like. Lisa's a merchant. Lisa works for the marketing team, and she's going to help me with the demos. And then, Jeff works at the back door, and Jeff's going to make sure, it's a relationship thing. And it was, it's constant anyway. So the
I just
package.
think just on that, just the thing I love is like it's often forgot how much of a ground game this whole thing is, right? Like a lot of
It's
people look at, oh,
wild.
they sold to Hormel for $280 million and, got lucky, right? Like, but like, yeah, Lucky is sleeping on everybody's couches for multiple years and doing, thousands of demos and everything else while, there's some luck obviously involved, but such a ground game.
Dude, so much luck. And that's what's so hard to kind of convey is I went into a sleepy category, right? Like no one was looking at peanut butter at the time. And so I got lucky there. I also got lucky that as I'm growing my business, the Almond Board of California was really trying to get people to buy more almonds. The Peanut
Mm,
Council of America was trying to, get people to eat more peanuts. I reached out to both those organizations to kind of like let them help me. You had paleo coming up, and then it goes to keto, and people are looking for more protein, low carb, whatever sources, and like it's just all of these things converged, and I got really lucky because we were early and we can move fast. And here's what was also interesting is in '08 and '09, kind of similar. It feels a little similar, but it was a
yeah.
little more depressing in '08 '09. A lot of companies weren't innovating because the economy's down. Big companies aren't innovating. They're not spending money on new products. And here I was looking kind of like a fool, creating all these, trying to raise money and trying to grow a business when everyone's like, no one's investing right. This is a really tough time to start a business,
Yeah.
which is the best time to start a
Yeah.
business because nobody else is going to be creating new products. But guess what? Whole Foods and Kroger and Target and Ear One and all of them, they still want to bring in new products. And so as soon as the economy like corrected and everything started to be good again, now all these companies started, to create new products, and there was new companies coming up. And by then we had a head start, we
Totally.
had a 2-year head start. And that's why now is so important to keep going, because when the economy does recover and everyone's starting a company, you're already three paces ahead, which is really important.
I see a lot of heads nodding and a lot of people resonating with that. And the fact that you can connect the dots from '09 to now, I think is very prescient. I think you're totally right on that.
But it's
Totally
tricky
right.
because it's not easy to raise money. And so instead of getting $100,000 check, you're getting a $10,000 check, and you need 10 of them. And
Yeah.
and you got to put things in escrow, and you got to wait till you get to a certain point, and whatever it takes. Because I had a lot of angels who were like, "What happens if you don't raise the minimum you need to execute against your plan?" Well, I'll put it in an escrow, and I can't touch it until we
Yeah.
get to this. And, well, what happens if you blah blah? Well, I'll wash cars, like whatever I need to do, like
Yeah.
like you just kind of overcome all the objections, all constantly.
It's I'm looking at our time, and I want to get to Rudy's too. And I just, as we kind of think about Justin's, so you guys sell in 2016 to Hormel.
No,
Um,
no, no, no. We were acquired in 2016. Big
oh,
difference.
that's right. Okay. Yeah.
We
Apologize on
talked
the
about this at
lingo there.
Expo.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Okay. The
So
business was acquired.
I'll be here tomorrow, yeah.
Um,
Sometimes I
oh, we
show
got
up.
somebody that's
we got some
Lola.
chatter.
Can you go on mute?
Exactly.
There we go.
So,
Um, you're
so
acquired. Yeah. Bring it up to speed. 2016. Yeah.
yeah. So a few really key things happened, and I'll tell them very quickly. One is I got into my first recall, my first and only, and a recall is terrifying, right? Because here you are creating food products to make the world a better place, and then all of a sudden someone gets sick, and then this fantasy of what you're doing unravels, and reality sets in that you're making food products, and that you can't control everything, and that there are some things that I was a little ignorant to from an operational standpoint. So a supplier of ours had a salmonella hit at Trader Joe's that linked back to the peanuts we were buying, so we had to recall. So they pull everything off the shelf, not just the one item that the ones, whatever lot code that's impacted. Everything goes off the shelf. Consumers are calling you because they feel sick, and and you're
Oof.
calling retailers and telling them that everything's okay, and you're getting them new product to put you back on shelf so you don't lose your shelf position. And you're doing this nationally, and then at night you're not sleeping, because what if someone does get sick, and what if someone passes away, and you have to live with that, and now you're negligent. And not only are you probably going to jail, but the company, all your employees, it all goes away.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. And so at that point, I had to pay for about $1 million to get out of the hole that I was in from there. And I didn't want any more angel capital. I wanted an institutional investor who knew exactly how to grow this thing and scale it in a really safe way. I interviewed probably 7 private equity and venture capital firms. VMG by far was the most prepared to meet with me and to scale with us. They had experience with Pretzel Crisp, Pirates Booty,
Yep.
at that time, Kind Bar. And so worked with VMG. I know a Perfect Bar down there. They're a great partner for them. And VMG came in and they helped me scale the business correctly. But what they said was, you realize that once we signed this deal, like there's only one way, there's only 2 ways this thing's going to work. And either way, you got to pay us back. and
Yeah.
and so there's only 2 ways: you either take out debt or you get acquired. And so now here's the difference between selling and acquiring. We built a business that was a healthy business. We had a great bottom line. We were well diversified across different platforms, categories, and channels. And we didn't just one day say, "Hey, let's sell the business. We're done. We're done. Let's try to sell the business."
Yeah.
We had companies come out to us that were like, "Wow, this is such a great business. We want to buy it." And we're like, "Sorry, we're not for sale," right? And then they kept coming back. And then several companies came back, and they all wanted to buy the business. You build a great business that someone wants to buy. You don't build a business that you want to sell, right? You build a really healthy business and someone's going to want to buy it. And that's what happened. We created a bidding war. Hormel was the second highest bid. The highest bid, that company didn't have a great track record. And I gave up. I left money on the table to work with an organization that had a better track record, because I care about the brand, I care about the people, and I wanted to see this thing continue to grow and do well for them, because I have a lot of pride in it. And then I wanted to stay. I wanted to work. I wanted the company to stay in Boulder, and I stayed and worked at Hormel for 5 years to kind of make sure that their investment did well for them, and to learn and to be a part of a large corporate food entity, which I don't want to do again, but was a great
Yeah.
learning opportunity.
I mean, there's so much there, right? I mean, we have some questions coming in. Um, I think a lot of people just for Hormel, like, so people think of spam, but Applegate Farms, they own Skippy. Like this company made a serious transition from its roots, and they have a pretty healthy portfolio of like really healthy natural items. Um, how hard, I guess my question for you, how hard was it for you to make that decision to,
Just terrifying. It's
yeah,
awful. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's such a dream come true to be able to pay people back, to have that all of that pressure of owing people things, to pay people back a good investment, a good return on their investment, to be able to everybody at Justin's was an owner. I saw a question come by. We had 50 people at Justin's when we were acquired, and all of our products at that point in time were co-manufactured. And so I learned that if there's somebody out there who can make your product, let them make it until you get to a
yeah,
scale. Or if no one can make your product, you're now a manufacturer. Congratulations. But we all have to start making our own food products until we get enough scale where someone can take it over. And so we had all co-mans at that point. We had 50 people in an office and across the country. Everybody was an owner because once private equity got involved and I knew the company was going to trade, I didn't want it to be a celebration and not like, this sad, oh shit, did I just lose my job? And
yeah.
so we everybody had equity, and so it felt really good to know that you've done right by people. You accomplished the American dream, but I also felt really, really hollow, like I was selling my soul and my likeness, and that I had sold out, and that PETA protesters are going to be at our office and spray painting our walls, and I'm a vegetarian and I just sold the largest pork producer in the country, and that doesn't feel good. And so both sides kind of like really
Yeah.
fought, and at the end of the day, like, it's a brand, and every
Yeah.
brand has a lifespan, and this brand could last another 5 years or another 50 years. And to be able to make money on the brand when it was when it was peaking, so to speak, like, it was okay, right? My kids don't want to work for their dad under their dad's name. They want their own identities, and I
Hmm.
want them to have their own identities. So it was okay, but years and years of therapy to work through that.
There's a question to check. Can you talk about like just high level numbers of like when you guys decided the business got acquired? What was like the size of the business? How many employees? And just, you know, I think you guys are anomalistic because there's quite a big company. It wasn't a small, like 20 million. I mean, what for I know.
Yeah, we're tracking 100 million, and so that's when the organization traded about 50 people, 100 million. Um, but again, like, we had a long way to go. We didn't have full ACV across all channels. We had no club business. We had very little food service business. We had a lot of white space for innovation and new products that we presented to the companies that are looking at us. So we showed this could be a 300 to 400 million dollar brand if you just continued to do the right things.
Yeah.
And where we got lucky was that almond butter and peanut butter, the whole nut butter category was growing, and so there was no ceiling. And so you can legitimately tell someone there's no ceiling. Who knows when this category is going to stop growing? And as soon as they bought it, I felt terrible. It's like, kind of peaked. So like, okay,
Well,
well,
kudos to
there's
you.
the ceiling. And but I want it to be a good investment for them. I don't want this to be a pump and dump, right? I want this to be good. And so what happened was the category flattened. All this new competition came in, which made it much harder to win in the marketplace.
So we have some really good questions coming in. I think it's a great transition as we go to Rudy's because I see a lot of stuff coming out of Rudy's. And Justin, your creative juices have not stalled. If anything, they've gotten focused and better. One of the questions is, how do you feel like the M&A space has changed from the 2016 Hormel deal to what you see now? Or, do you have any read on that landscape evolving or changing, or are the needs still the same from a strategic point of view?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is really running a healthy business. I think that, you know, a lot of companies around the same time that I started, I can think of some coconut waters and some other things like, Izzy was famous because they never made a penny, right? Izzy was all just top line growth, and
Wow.
Pepsi bought them on this top line opportunity. And I think that those days, I don't want to say they're over because there's always exceptions, but I think right now people want to look at a healthy business, and healthy that you have a bottom line or a clear line of sight to profitability, that you're diversified in a way that if peanuts had a bad year, we still had almonds that could prop us up. And so how do you diversify your product line and your customers? If Whole Foods goes away, you still have, Sprouts and, Kroger or whatever. And so having a healthy business across a lot of different things are what people look for now. And they're a lot less risk averse than they used to be. And some of that's because of the economic climate. Some of that's because there have been some brands that have not done well, and that's been a disservice to all of us in the industry. And so I think it's really focusing on having a healthy business, which is having a strong bottom line, or at least a clear path to how you can get there that you can show it an investor.
So such a good point. Another question, which I think is so spot on from Gianna is, we have a lot of public comps now from like Oatly and Laird and, publicly traded, like emerging natural food brands. What do you think of this kind of like public market for natural food brands?
No comment. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, some of these companies have no right going public, like they're just too small, and it's too much paperwork in order to maintain, that transparency. And I don't know, it's fun to watch. Like, I have the ticker
Yeah.
on my phone, and I can see how things are doing. But I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know much about the public market and the natural food companies that are participating in it. Everything that I know is private.
Yeah. Okay. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but we have to get to Rudy's, because now that I knew that Jane was on your advising board and Justin's, and you guys are just like a deadly combo right now. And Adam on our team here is also on this team. So if anybody's not been tracking Rudy's, please do. The amount of innovation coming out of this group is unbelievable. I mean, it's not surprising based on who's involved, but give us like where you guys are heads at with Rudy's as a brand. I
Yeah.
mean, it's an
So
iconic brand, like been
here's
around.
what's so
So
here's what's so fun about Rudy's is, so here you have one of the OGs. Rudy's is the world's probably, maybe, I don't know. It's the country's first and oldest national organic bakery, right? So national organic bakery. And the way bakery used to always work is you'd bake a loaf of bread fresh, you'd flash freeze it, you'd send it across the country frozen, and then the store would slack it, and then the next day it's fresh again and it's on shelf. And that's the way it's worked forever. Rudy's was acquired by Hain Celestial, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Hain Celestial neglected the business, and the business kind of, fell down from, a really large number to a really small number, and they spun it out. They got rid of it. And a group bought Rudy's to kind of like revive it, and they brought back Jane. And that's what you do, is you bring back the person who understands the culture, the people, the ethos, the purpose of the organization, to kind of revitalize it. And so Jane comes back and she's excited. She's like, "Oh, all we have to do is just get this into more doors, grow
yeah,
ACV. This is a
sure.
home run." And she comes back and she looks at the business and she's like, "Holy crap! Like, the world's changed." And what happened was, during COVID, Dave's Killer, which is a great brand, great product, is acquired by Flowers. They have bakeries across the country and their own DSD routes across the country. And during COVID, a lot of stores didn't have the labor to slack off frozen bread and let it thaw for the next day. And goes in and they're like, "Look, quit slacking all this bread. We'll deliver you fresh bread, and we're the number one organic in the category anyway. Just give us more SKUs. That's what consumers want." And so a lot of brands like Rudy's lost national distribution to Dave's, which is brilliant. I mean, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Kudos Flowers.
And so now, Jane's idea of, we just got to, get into more doors at bakery, doesn't work. And so, her and Adam and a bunch of the team got together and they're like, "Okay, well, what do we have? We've got baking heritage. we've got a lot of ovens here in Boulder that, aren't being used. Where can we go with our baking heritage and bread that we can still win in the marketplace? And so the first idea they had was to create, really thick slices of sourdough bread and cover it in butter and cheese and garlic, and do one gluten-free and one organic with organic bread, and create Texas toasts, which there is no Texas toast in the natural category.
Yeah.
In conventional, in grocery and, MULO, that's a real thing. That's a big category. And
Yeah.
so, which is a brilliant idea. Let's take an asset we have and repackage it and sell it in a different part of the store and add value in other ways. And so now, as an organization, we're going down the list of all the things that we can leverage our bakery asset and heritage into new frozen bread platforms, some of which are going to surprise you and some of which are going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, for instance, we just launched breakfast sandwiches. They're at Whole Foods, they're at Sprouts nationwide. Please go buy one. That's like a Jimmy Dean, but the weak part of a Jimmy Dean sandwich is the bread. So we've got really good gluten-free brioche buns, and we've got really good, sourdough English muffins. And then we're launching peanut butter and jelly, organic peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and a peanut-free, and fruit spread sandwich that's going to go into Whole Foods nationwide. And so all these great things that all have bread as the common denominator. And this is going to be a great business case, because it's not only do small brands, innovate categories, but large brands can innovate, and we're doing this, I don't want to say out of desperation, but what we've been doing hasn't been working, and we need to try something new. And the fact that Jane and the leadership there, including Adam, aren't afraid to take risks and try new things is, I think, is why we're all here. It's to change the world in small little ways. And and the whole point, does the world really need organic, Texas toast? No, of course not. You can make your own, but you can make your own peanut butter too, right? This is about how to create shortcuts in people's lives. So once in a while, they don't have to make a lunch for their kid. They can have Texas toast with pasta. It's just creating more opportunities for families to save time and be together. And it's really fun because Jane has assembled such an incredible team of professionals that, for me to be able to work with people again that are really have their shit together has been a lot of fun. It's been really rewarding.
And for those that don't know, Jane, not that she was on the advisory board of Justin, but she sold Lily's chocolates. She didn't sell. It was acquired. It was acquired. There you go. Learning here. It was acquired. So you just got like a rock star team here. As a consumer, I'm just interested in watching the entire journey, and just so much history here, Justin. Like, you guys see. It seems like you have a chance to see around the corner here, and some of the innovation you guys are launching. When you think about innovation, are you doing it from like a systematic way, or is it mainly like a need state? Do you act as a consumer? Like when you think about innovation at Rudi's?
It's tricky. I mean, it's tricky. So, true innovation from an entrepreneur standpoint, we all have to channel Willy Wonka, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are the dreamer of dreams, right? What is it that a consumer doesn't even know they need yet? And it's really hard to create something that consumers have never had in their life, that once they have it, they're like, how did I ever live without this? Right? The squeeze pack was that for me, and I got really lucky and I have a lot of gratitude that I was able to do that. And so for Rudi's, we have to work from both directions, right? So some of it is bottoms down, top down, is looking at, this is the size of the category. These are the top players.
Yep.
If we could create an item that can compete with this, that would do really well, that is a safe bet. The other way of looking at it is, wow, this is a category that's emerging, and we can create a product that has a bakery item in it that's never been done before, but it's a risk, and that's a bottoms up, and we've got to create the category, which we're going to do down the road, versus there's a category, let's do a natural organic version, gluten-free version of. And to be healthy, you've got to do both. And nothing's a sure win, because you got to have a high quality product that's at a right price point, that messages correctly, and that really does solve a consumer need. If you're not solving a consumer need, what's the point? No one's going to buy it.
Justin, I have a question, and we'll get to time here. And for folks that have to jump, please do. We'll post this recording. I always felt that frozen has had this legacy of not healthy because it's like frozen meals and it comes from like these, just for whatever reason. But if you think about frozen as a medium to preserve nutrients, it could be really healthy, right? Um, so do you feel like frozen as a category still has a lot of room in regards to delivering good products for people?
Yeah, freezing is nature's preservative, and for some reason we've gotten so far away from just taking something and freezing it. Like we add all of these
Yeah,
mold inhibitors and well, I don't even know what starches and dough conditioners and all these things so it can have a long frozen life and a long like we're going to create our Texas toast is so simple. It's bread, butter, and cheese. Like
mm,
we're not trying to like create something that's going to sit in your freezer for 5 years, right? Like buy it and eat it. And so we're just taking real food and we're just giving it a longer shelf life. But at the end of the day, like these are still real food items. I think there is a lot of room to grow. I think the frozen set has a lot of opportunity to clean itself up a little bit. And garlic and parsley. Thank you, Adam. And
for posterity, Adam, God forbid we get an ingredient wrong in here. That's
but
amazing.
no, I think there's room. But I mean, honestly, like I've learned two really valuable things. One is bread is a lot harder than peanut butter, right? Like
Mm,
peanut butter is really easy to make bread. You got to like get the ingredient ratios right. You got to proof it. It's got to rise the right way. And then you got to mix it and then work the dough and then bake it. It's got to bake correctly. Like it's a miracle. Like you can bake bread at scale, a
mm,
miracle. And the second thing I've learned is that frozen kind of lame. Like sending out samples is lame. Having to
yeah,
reheat things for customers at table sides is lame. Having to go to trade shows and worry about like
totally.
slacking something out to get it ready. Versus like Matt, this having a shelf stable product is just even though it's temperature sensitive is really like a lot simpler. And so having all these frozen concerns
Yeah.
is tough, and we don't want to be wasteful. We don't want to overnight things with dry ice. We want to do the right thing, and so wearing a sustainability hat and also in organics and everything else, it's tricky, and you want to do it the right way.
I'm just thrilled, Justin, that you are still giving your time and you've done it for so long in such a authentic way, and for you spending time here at the Naturally San Diego community and telling the story and having fun. And you're just a breath of fresh air. And I just was looking at the community, everybody nodding their heads, and I just want to say a deep heart thank you from Naturally San Diego, and we really, really appreciate you. It's just you're an amazing human.
Awesome. Well, I think that what you guys are doing is pretty special. I would love to come out there and meet
Yeah,
everybody next time I'm in San
for
Diego.
sure.
If you have any questions, you can email Adam Hertzel at rudysbakery.com. No, but I see a lot of questions coming up, and I'm happy to answer questions personally. I'm Justin Gold at rudysbakery.com. If you have any questions, if I can ever be of help or service, you can also get my email through Adam. But I'm happy to help. I think what you guys are doing is great, and I think collaboration is the key to success. Rising tide raises all ships. So let's do this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Have fun
guys.
doing a five show next week. That sounds
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. We have a lot of people there. It's going to be a good time.